We really only need to ask one question to start isolating the problem, and that is, did the computer boot properly? That will divide the problems into two categories: problems that prevent the PC from booting and problems that occur after a successful boot. If the system won't boot at all, then we've got some type of a power problem. We need to start checking at the power supply. We need to start asking some questions as to, are there any burnt parts or any odors that we're smelling? Is everything connected? Is there a loose cable or a connection? Is the computer plugged in? Are all the switches turned on? Is the wall outlet good? In other words, if we were to plug something else into that same outlet, would it work? If the fan isn't running, then turn off the computer and open the case and check all the connections to the power supply for sure, because the fan is part of the power supply. And if the power supply in the computer is not functioning, then the computer is not going to get power. If it begins to boot but it has errors, then we've got some type of a logical problem. If the power on self-test reports errors, we can narrow down what those errors were by how the computer beeps. A good start, a good boot of a computer will usually be just one short beep. Each BIOS has beep codes associated with it that we can download from the internet, and the BIOS beep codes will tell us, will give us a hint as to what the problem might be. For example, BIOS could say that we have a memory problem, could say that we have a CPU problem. So the beep codes will point us in the right direction. Other options that are system board related include, is the system in doze or in sleep mode? In other words, is it not coming up in normal mode, and we're thinking that it's not coming up at all? If the fan is running, then we need to reseat or replace the CPU, the BIOS, or the RAM, possibly. There are all different types of connectors, and there are all different types of ways that things could be loose. We may need to disassemble and reseat cables or adapter cards. We may need to check jumpers or dip switches to see if somehow something got thrown out of whack. We may even need to take out the more unessential components of the computer and reduce the system to its essentials so that we can determine whether we have a resource conflict with something that isn't essential anyway. Sometimes the thing that could be causing the problem would be something that we hardly ever use or haven't used in years. Worst case scenario, we might need to exchange the system board. Since the system board is the single point of failure in any computer, that could be our problem. That's what everything is connected to. If we have a bad system board, you really can't fix it. You really just have to replace it. But this is a rare circumstance where we would have to replace a system board that has been running fine before. In my experience, the computers where we've had to replace system boards were computers that were relatively new and something was wrong with the system board from day one, so they didn't work very long. But a computer with a healthy system board will work for years and years on that same system board. So as we said, one of the problems that could possibly be causing the computer to boot with errors or not even boot at all would be memory errors. And the next section will focus on memory errors.